Hi and welcome back, students. Today in AFM we'll be continuing with the next topic in your first chapter, that is investment decisions and risk analysis. So now moving on to your next chapter, you have techniques of measuring risks. Okay, in your techniques of measuring risk, earlier in your previous topics we've discussed what risk is and what are the different factors which cause risk and all of that. So moving on to what are the techniques which are used for measuring risk, there are 10 techniques to measure risk. Okay, so let's begin with your first type of technique which is used for measuring risk, that is known as sensitivity analysis. Now, what is sensitivity analysis? I hope you all can see in the video. The first technique is sensitivity analysis. Now, what is this sensitivity analysis? Sensitivity analysis is also known as what if analysis. Okay, now basically it is known as what if. Now, in this what if analysis, you will see, because here now why is it considering what if as its analysis? Because of the uncertainty of the future. Okay, if an entrepreneur wants to know what about the feasibility of a project in variable quantities, okay, so basically what is sensitivity analysis? It is a kind of technique which you are using to measure risk, saying because future is uncertain. Now when future is uncertain, you can an example, you have two projects to invest. Okay, you have project A and project B. Now project A has a lot of risk, but what if this particular project, in spite of or despite of risk, has a lot of return? And what if project B instead, it has less risk but it does not have proper return? So basically it is a what if analysis. Okay, this particular analysis is known as what if analysis because of the uncertainty of the future. Okay, now if an entrepreneur wants to know about the feasibility of the project in variable quantities, for example, investment of sales. Now, as you all know, in sales, the demand and supply keeps fluctuating, right? The demand for a particular product or service keeps fluctuating. Investment of sales change from anticipated value. Sensitivity analysis can be a useful method. This is calculated in terms of NPV, or net present value. NPV is nothing but it is a net present value. Now, what is the sensitivity analysis? Basically, this kind of technique is used when the future is very uncertain and you do not know the particular return from a project. Okay, that time sensitivity analysis is used as a technique. Best example is in terms of sales. Okay, because in sales, the sales keeps fluctuating. Today, for this particular month, you might have higher sales, but for the next month, you might have very less sales. So this is very important. This is very useful in terms of sales. Next type of technique is scenario analysis. Now, what is scenario analysis? In the case of scenario analysis, the focus is on the deviation of number. I think you all are aware of mean, median and mode, right? So it is on the deviation. Okay, let me just show it to you all. It is on the deviation of the number and number of interconnected variables. Now, one particular variable will be connected to various variables. Suppose A, B, C. Okay, all of these will be interconnected with each other. So, it is in the case of scenario analysis, the main focus of scenario analysis is completely on the deviation of number in interconnected variables. It is different from sensitivity analysis, which usually concentrates on the change in one particular variable at specific point of time. See, in sensitivity analysis, you are concentrating only on one variable. Your variable could, for example, your variable could be environmental changes, or it could be political factor. Here in sensitivity analysis, you're considering only one variable. But in scenario analysis, you're considering two or three or multiple variables. How is, for example, how will political factor affect the industry? How will industrial factor affect the supply? How will this supply affect the sales? Okay, all of these are interconnected and you are focusing on the deviation of a number of interconnected variables. Next one you have is break-even analysis. Now, what is this break-even analysis? Break-even analysis allows a company to determine minimum production and sales amount. Okay, what is it allowing you to determine? Minimum production and sales amount. For what? For a particular project, to avoid you losing the money. Okay, it will help a particular company to determine what is the minimum production and the sales amount to avoid losing money. Now, the the lowest possible quantity at which no loss or profit occurs is called as break-even point. Now, what is break-even point? Break-even point is a point where you do not have profits or neither losses. Okay, it is everything is equal. You do not have profit also, you do not have loss also. That particular point is known as break-even point. The break-even point can be delineated both in financial and accounting terms. This can be basically, see, you can use it in financial terms. You can use it in advanced financial management also, or you can use it during your preparing of profit and loss account, that is in your accounts. Now, break even point, I think you all are account students, so you will exactly know what break even point is. It is a time period in a particular company where you will not even have profit and not even loss for a particular sales or production or anything as such. Next one you have is Hiller model. This is a kind of model which is used as a technique to measure risk. Now, what is this model giving us? In particular situation, the anticipated NPV and the standard deviation of NPV can be incurred with the help of analytical deviation. Okay, basically it says with the help of NPV, anticipated NPV, and standard deviation, you can incur analytical deviation. This was first realized by F.S. Hiller. Okay, it was first realized by F.S. Hiller. There are situations where correlation between cash flows is either complete or non-existent. Okay, here it is saying that is a situation. In this particular model, there you will come across situations where correlation, okay, wherein one or more variables are correlating, where correlation between cash flows is either complete. Okay, in this particular model, correlation in cash flows is either complete or it is non-existent. It does not exist. Okay, this is an important model which was first realized by F.S. Hiller. Okay, this is also one of the techniques to measure risk. Next one is simulation analysis. Now, what is simulation analysis? Is basically utilized for formulating profitability. Okay, it is used to formulate profitability analysis for a criterion of merit with the help of random blending of variable values that carry a relationship with the selected criterion. Okay, basically you will have various criterias. Now, in this particular criterias, you will have a probability. Okay, probabilities could be what is the possibility. Okay, it is utilized for formulating probability analysis for a particular criteria. This particular criteria can be done differently, or it could be blended with different variable values that carry a similar relationship with a selected criterion. Okay, now next is you have decision tree analysis. Now, what is a decision tree analysis? When you work out the particular problems, you will actually see how the decision tree analysis works. Now, decision tree is a schematic tree shaped diagram. Okay, so moving on to your next one, you have decision tree analysis. In your decision tree is a schematic tree shaped diagram. Okay, so what is it? It is a schematic tree shaped diagram which is used to determine a course of action or show a statistical probability. It is a schematic diagram. It is a diagram. So basically decision tree comes like this. Okay, it is a diagram wherein it has branches. So from here you will multiply this particular value into the probability, and then further you will keep getting results, and you will be able to calculate the various projects of what the return is. So it is a tree shaped diagram, just like a tree, how it has a branches. Okay, decision tree is a schematic tree shaped diagram used to determine a course of action or show a statistical probability. What is the probability? What is the chance of profits? What is the chance of risk? Okay, it represents a possible decision or occurrence. The tree structure shows how one choice leads to the principal, how one choice leads to the next, and the use of branches indicates that each option is mutually exclusive. The principal steps of decision tree analysis are the definition of decision tree and the assessment of alternatives. So basically what happens, girls, in decision tree analysis is basically you will have a decision, you will have a particular project, you will have various projects like A, B and C. Okay, now you will systematically, for example, I will just show you a diagram of decision tree. See, This is how a decision tree looks. Okay, now basically here you will have a particular project. Okay, from this particular project you will have various costs that will be segregated. Okay, from this you will have various branches which will be arising. From here you will have various branches which will be arising. So you will be multiplying with the help of probability. You will be seeing what is the value which will be actually coming into existence and what will be the profit for your project, what will be the NPV. All of these values will be determined after you are segregating everything. You are equally distributing the cost. You are seeing as to how it will be effective. Okay, that is decision tree, wherein you are actually showing a schematic tree shape diagram. Next one is your corporate risk analysis. In your corporate risk analysis, it focuses on the analysis of risk. Okay, what is it focusing on? It is focusing on the analysis of risk. Okay, that may influence the project in terms of entire cash flow of the firm. The corporate risk of project refers to the total risk of the company. What is corporate? Corporate is nothing but an organization. Corporate risk is the total risk of the organization. Now, this is also one of the techniques of measuring risk. Okay, it is an analysis of risk. Okay, herein you are measuring risk of the entire firm at large, of the entire organization at large. The corporate risk is of a project refers to the share of the total risk of the company. Whatever the project risk is, it will refer to the total risk of the company. So your next type of risk is nothing but it is your risk management. Okay, I hope you all can see it in the video. Next technique is your risk management. Now, risk is something that you cannot avoid at any cost. Okay, risk is something that will definitely be there. It could be your projects, it could be anything. Okay, your risk is something that you can never ever avoid. Okay, risk management focuses on factors such as pricing, strategy, fixed and variable costs, sequential investment, insurance, financial leverage, long-term arrangement, derivatives, strategic alliance, and improvement of information. Risk management. What is the technique? Here, in this kind of technique of managing risk, you are focusing on these factors. Okay, what are the factors? First one is what is the price. Second one is what will be the strategy. Third one is what is your fixed variable. Fourth, what is your fixed cost? Next one is what is your variable cost. Then what is your sequential investment? Okay, next one is your insurance. Then financial leverage, long-term arrangements. Okay, your eighth one is long-term arrangements. Then it is your derivative, strategic alliance, and improvement on information. So risk management, wherein you are this is also one of the techniques of measuring risk. So in risk management, you are focusing on 10 factors. Okay, you're focusing on 10 factors that will actually create risk. Okay, so these 10 factors need to be considered in order to minimize or mitigate the risk, or in order to either minimize the risk or to completely eliminate the risk. Next one is selection of project under risk. This involves procedures such as payback period. Very important. Whenever you're selecting a particular project, you need to calculate what is the payback period, in what duration of time. Suppose 1 year, 2 year, 5 years. Okay, you need to calculate and see what is the amount or period of years that you will be getting back your return on the investment. That is your payback period, risk adjusted discount rate, judgmental evaluation, and certainty equivalent method. Okay, selection of project under risk. What are you calculating? Suppose I gave you an example earlier also. You have project A, you have project B. Project A has a lot of risk, but the return is greater. But project B is less risky, but the return is less. Okay, so in this kind of projects, you need to calculate what will be the payback period, what will be the risk adjusted discount rate, what will be the judgmental evaluation, and certainty equivalent method. All of these methods you will be studying in the further topics, wherein you will have a practical problem which will be worked on this particular thing. So the last type of technique is your practical risk analysis. The techniques involve the acceptable overall certainty index. Very important. You are taking into consideration your certainty index, margin of safety in high cost figures, conservative revenue, estimation, flexible investment, yardsticks, judgmental or 3-point estimates. Okay, you are considering again all of these factors, just like in risk management how you consider those 10 factors. You are considering various factors over here also to calculate your practical risk analysis, and this is also one of the most important techniques in order to measure your risk. So with this 10 points we complete what are the techniques of measuring risk. Okay, now let's move on to your next topic. Okay, so now moving on to your next topic, you have risk-adjusted discount rate approach. Now, what is this risk-adjusted discount rate approach? Is basically it is an estimation of present value of cash for high-risk investment. Here, you are estimating what is the present value of cash for high-risk investment. Now, you all know investment is a risk. For example, take into example your IMA Jewels. What happened? There were hundreds and thousands and crores of people who actually went and invested their entire earnings. Okay, so what happened later on? It was a risk to them because they did not get back their investment, and IMA turned to be out of fraud and a cheat company, and they lost their complete investment. So in order to adjust your risk here, you risk adjusted discount rate approach is basically you are estimating, okay, estimation of present value of cash for high risk investment. Now suppose there'll be investment of crores also. So when you are investing crores into a particular project, you have to estimate what is the present value for high risk investment. A very common example for risky investment is the real estate. See, we told it is either real estate or it could be any jewelry, for example, it could be IMA or anything as such. Okay, you are risking yourself if you do not know their history or background, if you have not done proper investigation or research about before investing. It is high risk. Okay, so your best example could be your real estate, because real estate business keeps fluctuating now and then, and the investment for the real estate is very high. Risk adjusted discount rate is representing required periodical returns. Okay, it will represent just like your payback periods in each year, how much return are you getting. Suppose you have first year, second year, third year, fourth year. Okay, in each year, suppose now you're investing suppose so many lakhs or 1 lakh or something. First year you might be getting 20,000 back, second year you're getting 30,000 back. Okay, so in what years, what is the return that you are getting? So you are checking out your periodical return by investments for investors by pulling funds to specific property. You're pulling funds to specific property. It is generally calculated as a sum of risk-free rate and risk premium. The variation of risk premium is depending on the risk aversion of investor and the perception of investor about the size of property's investment risk. Okay, you are taking into consideration what this is basically calculated for high risky projects. You are calculating for high risky projects. Secondly, you are seeing the periodical return in each period. What is the return of your investment that you're getting? Then you're pulling in investors funds for a particular specific property, and then later you're calculating a sum of risk-free rate of interest and risk premium. After that, what you're doing, your variation of risk premium is depending on risk aversion of investor and the perception of investor about the size of property of investment risk. Now, it is a very simple thing. What exactly you can, it is summarized very in a most simplest way. What is risk adjusted discount rate approach? Risk adjusted discount rate is equal to risk free rate. What is the risk free rate plus what is the risk premium? Very simple. You mention this, it is all very clear as to what is the risk adjusted discount rate approach. So it is the risk free rate plus your risk premium. Now under CAPM method, what is CAPM? It is capital asset pricing model. Now you do not have to go much deeper into this particular thing. You just you need to know what is a brief about everything. Okay. Now, under your capital asset pricing model, risk premium, what is it? Risk premium. Where did you derive risk premium from? It is from the discounted risk adjusted discount rate. Okay. Now, risk premium is equal to market rate of return. Now, what is the market rate? Now, what is the rate of return that is prevailing in the market? Minus risk free rate. Okay. Into beta of the project. Okay. Into beta of the project. You will understand this particular model perfectly when you work out a particular problem on this particular topic. Now, risk adjusted discount rates declared for that altering the rate depending on possibility of risk of investment project. Now, for example, very beautiful. Now you have a very beautiful example here. See, suppose you have a rate which would be used to discount the cash flow is the sum of risk-free rate and compensation for investment risk, right? Suppose your risk-free rate, now see, your risk-free rate is 10%, risk-free rate is 10% and compensation is 5%. Then rate of then the rate of 15% will be used as discount. Add this in this, what will be? It will be 15%. So what will be your discount rate? Adding this into this, it will be 15%. Your adjusted rate of return, your discounted rate will be 15%. Okay, whatever the values are, you need to calculate, put in the total, find out the exact total discount rate, and this discount rate will be applicable to what is the market price. Suppose it is 50,000, so 50,000 into 15%, you will get your risk adjusted discount rate rate approach. Okay, you will get a discounted rate. Now you have certain decision rules. Now all of these rules are something that you need to remember while you're working out risk adjusted discount rate approach. Is basically the risk adjusted approach can be used for both NPV and IRR. Okay, it is for the net present value and for the internal rate of return. If NPV method is used for evaluation, then MPV would be calculated using risk adjusted rate. Suppose if you're using NPV method, then you're using risk adjusted rate. Okay, now suppose if NPV is positive, very important, suppose after you're calculating, you're getting a positive figure, suppose you're getting plus 50,000 for example. Okay, then the proposal would qualify for acceptance. Only if the thing is positive, it will qualify for acceptance. If it is negative, suppose you are getting minus 50,000, then it is rejected. Okay, it is rejected. Okay, whatever figure after calculating the NPV, if the figure is positive, whatever balance you're getting is positive, if it has a plus sign, only then the project and only then the amount will be accepted. If not, if it is a negative figure, then it will be rejected. Okay, in case of NPV. Now what is it in case of IRR? In case of IRR would be compared with the risk adjusted required rate of return. If R, that is if the risk exceeds if R exceeds risk adjusted rate, the proposal will be accepted, otherwise rejected. If the R, okay, what is R? R is the rate. If it is existing, if it is in, suppose now this is R, right? R is there. Now the R, your risk, if it is existing, just a minute girls. So what is happening here is if the R exceeds risk adjusted rate, okay, if R is existing the risk adjusted rate, then the proposal is accepted. If it is exceeding, okay, it is accepted. If not, if it is not exceeding, it is rejected. Okay, I hope it's clear. If it is higher, if it is exceeding, it is accepted. If it is not, it is rejected. Now what are the advantages? Now obviously there are a lot of advantages for the adjusted discount rate approach. What are the advantages? Basically it is quite simple and easy to understand. It has a good deal of intuitive appeal to the eyes in the eyes of the risk averse business person. See, when you're calculating risk adjusted return, is basically it is very catchy, because here everything is very everything is super easy and easily known by any person who has to invest. So you get an exact idea of what will be your return, what will be the risk which is involved and everything. It integrates an attitude towards uncertainty. Okay, you have the entire attitude towards uncertainty. Here you are prepared for the uncertainties. Okay, it's not like you're not prepared, you are very much prepared when you calculate effectively. Now what are the limitations? There is no easy way of obtaining it. Hence, capital asset pricing model offers a basis of computing the risk adjusted rate. Its use has still to pick up and practice. So basically it is not very effective because not many people use it, and also there are a lot of change that needs to be made, and it's not actually very easy keeping in mind your uncertainties and lot of risk to calculate your risk adjusted rate of return. Okay, and here you need to completely rely on the assumption that investors are risk averse. Okay, so it is very difficult even to assume, because it is completely reliable on assumptions. Though it is mostly true, however, a group of seekers also exist who never demand premium for the risk assumption. Okay, there are people who demand for risk premium, there are people who do not demand premium. So it is very difficult to analyze and find out who are those people, who are those category of people, who are not those category of people. It is not very easy. It is a very time consuming process, and also it is very costly. It requires a lot of investment to do all of this. Okay, Now, they willingly pay premium to take risk. Okay, there are certain people who pay premium to take risk. Accordingly, with the level of increased discount rate will decrease. When the premium rate increases, the level of discount rate decreases. There will be certain people. Okay, there will be a group of investors who will keep paying premiums in order to take up that particular risk. Okay, so as and when the premium goes up, the level of the discount rate, the level of increase of discount rate, it will continuously decrease. Now, as we all saw the formula of adjusted discount method, the risk adjusted discount rate method, that is the RADR, that is radar, is similar to NPV. Okay, it is very similar to NPV. It is defined as present value of the expected or mean value of the future. Okay, it is the present value of expected. It is the present value of expected or mean value of future cash flow distributions discounted at discount rate. Now, your discount rate is K. Okay, it is symbolized as K, which includes a risk premium for the riskiness of the cash flow from the project. It is defined by the following equation. So basically, this is the equation through which it was defined. Okay, the correct equation is given. How you find out the risk adjusted discount rate and how you find out the risk premium. This is the formula that you use. Okay, so let's move on to your next topic, that is certainty equivalent approach. Okay, in your certainty equivalent approach, all you need to know is what is certainty equivalent approach. Okay, now under your certainty equivalent approach is guaranteed return. Okay, here it is guaranteed return that someone would accept rather than taking a chance on higher but uncertain return. Okay, here basically, see, as investors, you are getting a guaranteed return. Okay, in certainty equivalent approach, you are getting a guaranteed return. Under your guaranteed return, here it's someone would accept rather than taking a chance. Okay, chance on higher but uncertain return. Okay, you are taking a chance, you are taking guaranteed return in spite of taking a chance on uncertain return. Okay, you are taking for guaranteed return. Now, here in this approach, it recognizes risk, but the procedure for reducing the forecast of cash flows is implicit and is likely to be inconsistent from one investment to another. Okay, here it is very inconsistent. Okay, it is very inconsistent because from one investment to other investment, suppose your investment here would be 20,000, here it would be 40,000. So it is very inconsistent. Okay, further, this method suffers from very much dangers and large. Okay, basically this method has a lot of drawbacks and also suffers from a lot of dangers. Basically, see, when you're talking about risk, you can never guarantee a particular return. If I tell you, girls, I'm actually coming up with a particular project, you invest 20,000 and I will make sure you're getting 30,000. I cannot tell you with a guarantee that you will be getting 30,000, right? Because see, there are a lot of risk. Now, even if I've calculated risk, keeping in mind your assumptions, your various political factors, still I will not be able to calculate exact amount of what is the risk involved and will I actually get 10,000 extra on my investment. So there are a lot of uncertainties. Okay, so we do not know what the uncertainties are, so you can never guarantee a return. That is completely false. Okay, that is completely false. You can never guarantee a return. Now, so that is why it has a lot of dangers. So when you're talking about the formula of certainty equivalent method, the formula is certainty equivalent adjusts for risky directly through the expected use of cash flow in each period and then discounts these risk adjusted cash flows by the risk free rate of interest. The formula for this method is given as follows. Okay, so basically this method is not really important. All you need to know about this particular method is the meaning and what are the advantages and the disadvantages. The formula also is not taken into consideration. Okay, so what are the advantages? It's very simple and easy to calculate. It's conceptually superior to time adjusted discount rate approach because it incorporates risk by modifying cash flows which are subject to risk. See, it will modify cash flows. Okay, suppose one cash flow, 1 year you're getting 20,000, the other you're getting 30,000. So you are getting moderate cash flows, but doesn't mean this does not involve risk. Okay, it is similar to a discounted risk approach, but still it has its own drawbacks. Now, what are the demerits? Are basically it explicitly recognizes risk. Okay, it is recognizing risk explicitly. Okay, the procedure for reducing the forecast of cash flows is implicit and likely to be inconsistent from one investment to other. And also see, it completely depends on forecasting. It completely depends on best estimates. Okay, no one can come up with an exact estimate of what will be the risk or what will be the investment. So all of this, it is basically, you can step down in such a way that it is not very easy to calculate. It is time consuming, it involves a lot of cost, and exact forecast is not possible. So these are the demerits. Instead of complicating your demerits, these are the few general demerits that you can write in any of the answers. Okay, any of the models or any of the answers when you're listing down the demerits. Okay, so basically here it is focusing on explicit, and whereas when you consider the implicit values in order to calculate your risk and all of that. Okay, so basically it has to pass through several layers of management. Okay, so basically it is a very time consuming process, and also needs the authority of each and every person in the top management and everything as such. So basically it is not a method that you can practically imply. So talking about sensitivity analysis, it is basically, by now you know what is sensitivity. It is completely what if analysis. Okay, and also sensitivity analysis is one of the techniques to measure risk. Now talking about sensitive analysis is what will happen to the project if the assumptions and estimates turn out to be unreliable. Very important. Now there'll be certain people who will say, yeah, I've done the exact estimate, I've done the assumption, so let me just invest in this project. Now what if all of these assumptions are not reliable? What if all of this planning and forecasting and your calculations are not right? What will happen in that case? So in this way, sensitivity analysis comes as a savior to you all. Okay, sensitivity analysis involves changing the assumptions or estimates in calculations to see the impact on the project's finances. In this way, it prepares businesses managers in case the project doesn't generate the expected results, so they can better analyze the project before making an investment. Suppose that, for example, I come up with a particular project and I will say that I've made all the calculations, I've made all the estimates and everything, but what if my calculations and estimates are wrong? I can bring in sensitivity analysis as a technique in order to save myself from incurring risk. Okay, now what will this sensitivity analysis do? Whatever calculation I've done, it will reconsider all of that and it will give me a proper solution. Okay, it will analyze all the calculations and everything that I've done. It will analyze everything. It will analyze the project before making the investment. Whatever I've done, it will recalculate everything. It will analyze each and everything, and based on that, before making an investment. So this part will come before making the investment. Now sensitivity analysis determines how much an output is to be expected to change due to changes in variable of parameter. Sensitivity analysis helps find out the optimal levels of input. Example, what is the raw material, how much to invest in raw material, what are the how many number of employees, sales price, everything it will take into consideration. Sensitivity analysis is a statistical tool based on seeing how inputs and parameters affect outputs. Generally, each input is changed one at a time to see how it affects the output. Suppose, for example, you're taking in two inputs. Okay, that is, you're taking raw material, okay, raw material and sales. Okay, suppose you are taking 50 raw materials but your sales is just 30, so you will change this to 20 to see what change will it bring. When you're changing this to 20, suppose your sales is increasing by 40. Okay, how is it affecting? How is it interrelated? When you change raw material, how will sales change? If you change sales, how will raw material change? So basically, it checks the relationship between the two or more variables and sees how one variable affects the other variable. Okay. Now, the various steps which are involved in the sensitivity analysis, the following steps are: identify, define and analyze. What do you have to identify? Identify the variables. Now what are your variables? It could be raw material, it could be sales, the number of employees, okay, anything as such. These are your variables which can influence the project's NPV. What is NPV? Net present value, or IRR. You're identifying what are the variables that can affect the project's influence or affect the project NPV or IRR. Next is you need to define. After you are identifying, you need to define what underlying relationship. Suppose, for example, as I showed earlier, sales and number of sales and raw materials, how one variable affects the other variable. Okay, you are checking the relationship between variables. Next is analyze. Analyze, what are you analyzing? Impact of the change of variables on projects NPV or IRR. Now suppose if you're changing the variables, if you're checking the relationship between the variables, suppose you're changing the variables, your NPV and IRR also changes, right? So when you are analyzing the relationship, you need to analyze your change in the NPV and IRR also. Okay, now in the project's NPV or IRR can be computed under the following three assumptions of sensitivity analysis. How will you find out the NPV and IRR? How can you analyze it? You can be pessimistic. Okay, that is the worst. Expected, that is the most likely. Optimistic, that is the best. You have three things that you will consider. Pessimistic is basically you could get the worst return out of everything. Expected is, okay, yeah, I expected certain amount of return and this will be my NPV or IRR if there are just changes in the variables or if due to the interrelationship between NPV or IRR. Optimistic is basically because of the relationship between the variables, you could either get the best result, you could get the better result, or you could get the worst results. Okay, so it is pessimistic, expected, and optimistic. So after which you have advantages of sensitivity analysis. Now advantages of sensitivity analysis, it compels, okay, it compels the decision maker. It is compelling the decision maker to identify, it is telling me to identify the variables, okay, variables affecting the cash flow forecast, which helps in understanding the investment of the project in totality. Now what is cash flow? It is through your NPV IRR, okay, it is forcing me to identify what are the variables which are affecting my cash flow. It could be cash flow and how is it affecting my particular project. Okay, it is compelling the decision maker. Who is the decision maker? We are the decision makers if we are investing in a particular project. It identifies critical variables for which special actions can be taken. Okay, it will also identify what are the critical variables. Okay, suppose for example your political factors, your technological factors, all of these variables will be considered before you take a particular action. It guides the decision maker. Very true, it helps in guiding the decision maker. See, it is compelling the decision maker, it is helping in identifying the critical variable, and it is guiding the decision maker to concentrate on relevant variables of the particular project. Okay, what are the variables and what are the relevant variables that the decision maker should concentrate on? So similarly, looking into the disadvantages here, it says that the range of values suggested by the technique may not be consistent. Okay, it is something that is not consistent. The term optimistic and pessimistic could mean two different things to two different people. Okay, suppose there are different organization. One could be it completely it could be in mills, and one could be your water supply or anything as such. It could be different. So these terms mean differently to different people. So it is really difficult to you cannot it is not really consistent and you cannot consider these terms. Okay, then it fails to focus on interrelationship between variables. Okay, it fails to focus. That is, what is the interrelationship between your sales, your raw materials, your forecast, all of these variables? It fails to focus. The study of variability of one factor at a time, keeping the other variables constant, may not make much sense. Very true. See, you suppose you are studying only raw material by keeping sales as constant. No, this will not work out. You need to consider two variables at a time. If you consider just one variable and keeping other variable constant, then it will not give you effective results. Okay, so I hope the sensitivity analysis is also very perfectly understood by you all, considering all the steps involved, advantages, disadvantages, and everything. Okay, now next, moving on, you have your probability approach. So probability approach,